ballasting track requirements: wet water, which is normal water with a drop of sunlight liquid or any detergent in, and a misting attachment or misting bottle, so you can mist the track and the ballast once it is done. Glue, 50-50 mixture of white glue and water, and also a drop of detergent sunlight liquid mixed in with it. And then of course the ballast. Applying the ballast, I find a spoon works quite nicely. Just run it down the center of the track very lightly, and then work it in with my fingers. And then, just to make sure it falls in very nicely, tap the rails, normally with the back of a paintbrush or any suitable instrument. Once you tap the rails, the ballast seems to climb off the sleepers and in between the sleepers where it belongs. And then to do the sides, I normally cheat a bit because the rear of this track will not be very visible, so I do a very light coating of ballast on the rear, and then the front I do quite a decent amount of ballast, and there's still some needed in between the rails. Tap it again a little bit, and then the front in between the sleepers on the outside, just smooth that with your thumb and then run it. This can take quite a bit of time to get it looking good, and again tap it. Another requirement is a small brush. I use a fan brush just to take the ballast that didn't settle between the sleepers with the tapping off the sleepers of the saddles, and then just run my thumb over that once again, press that up to get a nice even spread. And sometimes, just to make sure, if I want it very neatly, I take, this is an old credit card that is cut up, just to get a very straight line. Move it along. You can see that forms quite a straight line for the ballast. Then comes the fun part, and that is the gluing. Take the spray bottle, and this one unfortunately only works upside down. Mist the area, make sure the ballast is very wet, and thereafter the glue. I just use a small glue bottle's cap on the big bottle because there's not much left in this big bottle, and you will notice that the glue runs in straight away. It does not sit and make a little bubble on top or a droplet on top of the track or on top of the ballast. And then a little bit on the rear, I unfortunately did not do that. When it is wet, you don't move the ballast, you leave it until it is dry. Painting it will be a next video. Okay, painting ballasted track requirements: paintbrush, container to mix paint in, and I'm using paint tinters, black oxide, brown, and a red oxide. Normally the track is quite dirty, so we start, and also again our wet water, just the water with some sunlight liquid in it to make the paint flow quite easily. And then also I use just a short piece of rail to get the paint, if it doesn't pour, because this tint sometimes get a little bit dry and they become a paste instead of a liquid. The black is luckily still a liquid. So what we do now, we've put some 1 or 2 drops in there. If I can just show you quickly. And you'll notice there is still some scenery material from a previous goodie. That does not make a major difference. That actually helps a bit to give it a bit of texture. So a few drops of water, because this actually goes on as a wash. Mix it, and then you get a very black, but that is still too thick and too black, so I'm going to add a bit more water. Stir it up again to get a nice liquid. Now you can see it's a slightly different color, and then because it is quite thin, all we do is we run it down the middle of the track, and you can see it also, because it's got the sunlight liquid in the mixture, it seeps into the track quite easily and quite quickly. And then also a little bit on the sides, just touch on the ballast on the side of the track, and then you have like almost a light grey ballast. Sometimes this is sufficient, but this specific piece of track is industrial trackage, which is heavily weathered and normally quite rusted. So I am going to add some brown and some red oxide to make a nice rusty piece of rail. And just find another piece of rail to add some brown. And I'll add this straight to the black paint that's there already. I actually need a longer piece of rail. What did I do with that? Oh, the original piece is in there. Pause quickly. There's I say when it becomes a paste, you get that. And then a bit of the, just mix that and have a look at how the color will come out. Now you can see it's a much browner color, but still just mixed in with the black, or the black with a bit of brown. This is just a plain brown mixed in. You can see if I paint against the side of the white bowl there, it looks very rusty, but this is a piece of the track that is going to be leading to my harbour, so it will be quite rusty. So I'm going to add a bit more just to get the rust color a bit stronger, a bit of red oxide, just a few drops. And I'm not worried about that area where I'm putting it down. I do not have scenery down there yet, so that doesn't matter. Okay, and then this we also just run very lightly along the sides. And you can see this covers a bit of the rail as well. And then the middle of the track, I've just got a piece of the paste stuck in the brush that I don't need now, so I'm going to just use the brush sideways. And then make sure you cover this ballast in between the sleepers. And the sleepers themselves are normally also a bit weathered, especially on these types of tracks. And then at the back also just run the rusty track, the rusty paint down the back. And leave that to dry. The track itself, once it is dry, clean the tops with a Bright Boy or a track cleaning block, Pico, Bright Boy, Roco, whichever make. And then also, if I'm not satisfied with the side of the rail, I will use some Humbrol 113, which is the matte rust. Matte 113, and I will brush paint the side of the rail with a small micro brush. can see there it's quite a, that's the biggest of the micro brushes. You can go even smaller and paint the sides of the rail with that to give you the final effect. You see I don't have any track here. That section is, can't just pause. Here is some examples of track that has been painted with the Humbrol 113, and you can see right at the back that section has not been painted yet, but the other track, the sides of the track look quite realistic, having a rust brown to a more so dark brown color, and that looks very much like the track in our area.